Crypto market is low because you do have negative news coming in the market. But we do have to understand the fact that SEC really do not have much of a role here because it's not a security. If it was a security, then there was something to talk about. But right now, these guys are just wasting time. And that's exactly what Brad Garlinghouse highlights here. And yes, when you look at the price action, you do see that the price is correcting back down. You do see the price is slowing down. And that was one of the perspective which we laid out in yesterday's video where we discussed about the possibility that we're going to slow down. We're going to actually come back down to the support, maybe wick a little bit lower and then continue back to the upside. So in case if that's happening in the market, that will bring buying opportunity for a lot of new individuals who actually missed the entire run up here. So you'll actually see some kind of buying action coming into the market. But yes, it actually will take some effort to look in the price action because the Bitcoin dominance is bouncing back from that channel trend line. And now that is acting as a support. So as the Bitcoin dominance increase and if it actually breaks above 50.25, now that does mean Bitcoin is draining the altcoins, not all of them. Some of them are still doing fine. They are still running higher. We actually had the thought process shared before. Back in June, we told this is a good opportunity for next 3 to 5 weeks. And then we had the follow up with the targets. And where are we right now? We are about that target. We hit those levels. So that's 66% for the month. So yes, the market as a whole is negative, but we have few assets which are running one by one to the upside. We watched a couple of the other assets which actually did same and correct back down now. But if you knew the target, what happens? You're taking your profits at that target. If the market corrects back down, it's not an issue. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. Right now, when you look at the price action, see Bitcoin is still holding on to this level of support. If it actually breaks, say the 29,500 mark, now we will see some level of panic and it would be quick. Because as soon as you see a break of this level, there would be panic entering into the market because the price is one below the 21-day moving average on a daily chart. Two, when you actually go on a weekly, you can say there is enough room to the downside for the price to reach the 21-day moving average on a weekly. So that kind of signifies the impact of maybe we're going to come back down towards 27,000. We had that narrative laid out saying, okay, if we fail moving up, that means the divergence is still valid. Like we actually made a higher high in the price action. However, the RSI showed you the strength is not there. So the strength actually reduced, and if we give up the current support level, that's going to be bringing some level of panic. There is no doubt in that. But what matters more for us is to see, okay, if the market is slowing down as a whole, which direction is your asset going? And for us, it's XRP. And we are talking about these support ranges. First thing you need to ask yourself here would be, okay, where did we come from? Where was the price a month back? Where are we right now? And once you understand the fact that, okay, we had this pattern, we broke to the upside, and now we may come back down to test the first level of support. If we don't hold that, okay, then you see 0.57 range. Now, that's not something like we're talking back at 0.3, 0.45. This is a range which we have been trading for a long period of time. And right now, we do understand the fact that if you look for a medium-term price action, this range has been acting as a resistance, then as a support, and right now we broke above that. It's been around 1,000 days that this range is strong. So when the price action come back down, I strongly believe that we will get support here. We will bounce off from this floor. Now, if we don't break the level of 0.7 to 0.65, that zone will attract buyers. Now, what would be something which we should be looking at? I would say this is a range which the RSI shows you as a trend line because it was showing us a breakout in this range. And now when you come back down, either you say, okay, if we bounce off at 54, that's bullish. Now, if not, we'll come back down to 42. That's neutral. Now, we are not looking at the bearish scenario here because the bearish scenario would more likely be below this range, which would be around 39. If the RSI is slowing down that range, that means we are spending a month or two here. And that's why I'll actually take you guys back to the clear point which we laid out here. Last time during this consolidation, it was around 45 to 50 days. So after the first pop, you consolidated there for around 50 days before you started the next run higher. So now this is a short-term chart. It's a 4-hour chart which shows the similar price action. However, when you go on a daily, you do understand the fact that, okay, we are no way near that time horizon. We are just 10 days from the recent peak. Which means if that's the case, we have another 30-40 days of consolidation in this range, after which we will watch the price action climb back up. So in the meantime, what's more interesting is to look at the Bitcoin dominance, where it's going, because if it gets rejected with the trend line resistance here, it is positive for us. It is trending back down. That's positive. But if it actually breaks that range too, now you're watching Bitcoin draining liquidity from the altcoin market. And at that point, you need to watch whether Bitcoin is holding on to this support level, bouncing off, or breaking to the downside. Because if Bitcoin is breaking lower and the dominance is going up, that means altcoins are bleeding way worse than the Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is bouncing and Bitcoin dominance is increasing, that's okay. Altcoin would be most likely staying in the same range, and Bitcoin is taking the new money coming into the market because it's moving higher. So that perspective makes a lot of difference. So when you actually come back and look at the short-term charts for XRP, say a 4-hour chart in XRP kind of shows you like, okay, the price action is dropping. We had the trend line support which we drew before. We broke that to the downside. And we highlighted the fact that, okay, if we are breaking that to the downside, that means your support zone is going to be somewhere close to this range. Now, what we need to watch is if we get a reversal signal somewhere here, then we shouldn't be neglecting that fact that the price action can actually reverse back up. So if you actually observe the price action taking out a new pattern, which would be a higher high, higher low, higher high pattern coming back in, that means you're literally making the price action move like this. And that was in a corrective momentum. It didn't actually have a huge momentum to the upside compared to what we have done before. So now when we are going back down, do keep this in mind. Yeah, we are slowing down. Yeah, we are correcting back down. But do we actually have a pattern which the price action is following here in this range? That becomes really important. Why is that? Because when you actually try laying out a trend line, you can say, okay, there is a trend line formation, which was first a resistance, which then turned into a consolidative area, and then we broke to the upside. After which, when we came down, it acted as support a couple of times. We bounced, the moving average kind of rejected the price. We came back down, and that still was acting as a support range. So if it is me, I would say, okay, this range, it is a key area to see, because if this is a trap where the market is looking to trap a lot of sellers, then this particular move would be erased soon. What would that mean? That means the breakout which the price action gave here is still valid, and you're bouncing off from that particular level. Now story changes. Why? Then you slowly go back to a higher time structure, which would be a 4-hour chart. And imagine if the price action just did this run up and it bounces back from this trend line, that means now you're watching for higher momentum to come back in, because at that time, this is the range. You're looking for the price which is consolidating in between this range, and on a daily, at that point, you would get a bull flag. Now, why are we talking about that right now? Because anticipating the price action is one of the important thing in the market, in my humble opinion, because if you can anticipate and that's working out, and you're going through that chart on a daily basis, looking at whether that trend is getting invalidated or that is getting reinforced, makes a lot of difference, because once you understand, okay, the price actually went up, it's holding on to this range and it's breaking through to the upside, that's super bullish. It just shows you it went up, consolidated or took a breather, and now it's going back up. So on a daily, now we are watching that this range where the price action stayed there allowed the moving average to come back up is what's happening here. So the moving average is getting closer to the price. As soon as you see the gap being reduced, that means now we have some room to the upside, or at least to the downside, we do have some support approaching. Because on a daily, then you actually plot this line as we discussed before. Watch this. When the price action reached that point and slows down, if you see the RSI bouncing off from this trend line, that should give us some level of certainty, saying, okay, at least for the short term, we may see a bounce. Now, it can be a short-term retracement for sure, but we need to see whether we're going to test the 0.82, 0.83 mark. If we do, okay, that means bulls are still here, it's still strong. Then you go back in the market, you want to actually see where the volume is. Because if the volume profile is back to that 350 million, now that's a concern. However, we're watching that the volume is still staying around 1.3 billion. So before the pump started, we were somewhere close to 350 million, 300 million in volume. Now we are staying around 1.3 billion. But remember, we went up to 10 billion in volume before all these exchanges relisted XRP. And this time around, if we actually see price action breaking to the upside with all these exchanges relisting it, the volume is going to go even higher, because now it is on the radar of a lot of other people, whether it's the algorithm, whether it's the retail, whether it's the institutional guys in the Binance US, in the Coinbase, in the Kraken, you name those exchanges which just relisted XRP. So the amount of money which is going to come back into the market is going to be huge. Now, one of the most important points to watch is how this weekly candle closes. We cannot actually neglect the fact that if we actually get a candle close below this point, that is negative, which means on a weekly, we just faked out. Now, as of now, it's just trying to see what's negative. It's not pushing the foot in. It's looking at what's possible in the market, saying, if the weekly closes below 0.54, that is negative, which means 80% of the move to the upside, we just erase that. That's not positive. However, if you still hold on to 70 to 80% of the run up, which we just did, say the price still hold on somewhere close to 0.6, when the weekly candle closes, if it closes in negative, that means the bulls are still there. They're fighting hard, which will slowly remove the sellers out of the market, because they are now worried that, okay, the base has been shifted. We don't have much room to the downside. So they're literally looking for their safety, and the market usually move. Always remember this. The market usually move in a direction of least resistance. If when it come back down, it's getting resisted here, which means at that point it's a support technically, but bulls are resisting the price when it is coming down. That's what's happening. If that happens a couple of times, that means now the price action is saying, okay, no, I'm getting a lot of resistance in this range. Let me go to the other direction. And that's why I told you guys, like, keep an eye close to this point. If we break the 0.82, 0.83 range, that's bullish. But right now, the perspective is, are we bouncing off from this range or breaking to the downside? We'll follow that as closely as possible, just like we follow a lot of other assets. You guys would actually watch me dropping all these alerts when that's happening. Now, literally on that time, if you actually look at it, you broke to the downside, you retested that range, you got rejected, and you already broke this range. Now you're just below that, right? So if you are looking for these kind of updates on a lot of different assets, including opportunity calls, profit-taking calls, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So that is it for today, guys. If you received value, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that yet. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.